There's a version of you that closes your eyes and pictures crossing a finish line, landing a promotion, or finally mastering a skill you've been chasing. That version feels motivated, energized, maybe even a little closer to the goal. Then there's the version that opens your eyes, doesn't start, or starts but gives up halfway through. You might wonder what went wrong. The imagery felt real, the confidence felt genuine, but the gap between the mental movie and the actual outcome is wider than you expected. Visualization sits in this uncomfortable space between useful preparation and elaborate procrastination. It can prime your motor system to execute movements more cleanly. It can help you map out a plan and anticipate what might go wrong. It can calm your nerves or boost your confidence just enough to perform under pressure. But it can also let you bask in the glow of imagined success while your actual progress stalls. It can consume mental energy that you needed for the work itself. It can make you feel productive when you're really just daydreaming. The difference comes down to what you're imagining and what you do afterward. If you're running a simulation, testing your plan, rehearsing movements, identifying weak points, then you're using imagery as a cognitive tool. You're thinking through the problem. You're building readiness. The visualization is a means to an end, and the end is action. But if you're savoring the fantasy, replaying the applause, imagining how good it will feel when you've made it, then you're using imagery as an emotional reward. You're giving yourself the payoff before you've done the work, and your brain, which doesn't perfectly distinguish between anticipated and actual rewards, responds by lowering your drive. The research shows this clearly. People who imagine the process, the grinding, sometimes tedious steps that lead to an outcome, tend to follow through. They study more, practice more, apply for more jobs, stick with difficult tasks longer. People who imagine the outcome, the moment of triumph, the relief and pride and recognition, often don't. They feel better in the short term, but do worse in the long term. The imagery tricks them into thinking they're closer than they are. This isn't intuitive. The self-help industry, the motivational speakers, the vision boards and manifestation rhetoric all tell you to see yourself succeeding, to make it vivid, to feel it as if it's already real. And there's a kernel of truth buried in there. Believing you can succeed does help. Confidence reduces anxiety, and anxiety interferes with performance. But the leap from imagining success to actually achieving it requires action, effort, persistence through setbacks, and the ability to adapt when reality doesn't match the fantasy. Visualization that makes you feel like you've already arrived undermines the motivation to keep moving. The mental contrasting approach, imagining both the goal and the obstacles, seems to thread the needle. You're acknowledging what you want, which provides direction, and you're acknowledging what stands in your way, which keeps you grounded. The combination preserves the tension that drives effort. You haven't resolved the gap between where you are and where you want to be. You've just clarified it and started planning how to cross it. That planning, especially when it takes the form of specific if-then commitments, translates imagery into action more reliably than pure positive visualization ever does. Motor imagery has the advantage of being concrete. You're not imagining vague success. You're imagining a specific movement, a sequence of muscle contractions, a particular trajectory through space. This engages the motor system directly. It's rehearsal in the truest sense, running the program without executing it fully. The brain treats it as practice, and practice, even mental practice, strengthens neural pathways. The effect is smaller than real practice, but it's real. And for skills you already know but need to refine or maintain, it's a legitimate tool. But even motor imagery has limits. It works best when it mirrors reality closely. If you imagine a tennis serve but your mental timing is off, or you're watching yourself from the outside rather than feeling the movement from the inside, the neural patterns don't match what your body needs to do. The simulation is inaccurate, and inaccurate practice, even mental practice, doesn't help. It might even reinforce errors. The cognitive load problem is easy to overlook. Imagery feels effortless when you're sitting quietly, eyes closed, nothing else demanding your attention. But during a real performance, when you're trying to execute a skill under time pressure, with other people watching, with the outcome mattering, your working memory is already stretched thin. Adding detailed visualization on top of that can push you into overload. You're trying to hold a mental image and respond to the environment and regulate your emotions and execute the movement all at once. Something has to give, and often what gives is performance quality. You choke, not from lack of skill, but from cognitive interference. This is why the best athletes don't visualize elaborate sequences during competition. They might use a brief cue, a snapshot, a feeling, something that orients them without consuming attention. The heavy visualization happens during training, during rest, during moments when there's no competing demand. The imagery builds the skill. The execution, when it counts, is as automatic as possible. Expectancy effects mean that if you believe visualization will help, it probably will, at least in domains where confidence and anxiety matter. But this also means the technique is somewhat self-limiting. If you try it and it doesn't work, your belief erodes, and future attempts are less likely to work because you're not bringing the expectation that made it effective in the first place. It's a tool that depends partly on faith in the tool, which is both reassuring and frustrating. Reassuring because it means you can cultivate that faith if you choose. Frustrating because it means the benefits might not generalize to skeptics or to people whose past experiences have taught them that mental tricks don't change outcomes. Cultural context shapes this too. In environments that emphasize individual control, personal responsibility, and the power of mindset, visualization fits naturally. It aligns with the story people already tell themselves about how success happens. You set goals, you work hard, you believe in yourself, you visualize the outcome, and you make it real. In environments that emphasize collective effort, external circumstances, or the role of luck and timing, that story is less compelling. Visualization feels like a mismatch, an imported technique that doesn't account for how the world actually works in your experience. None of this means visualization is useless. It means visualization is conditional. It works under specific circumstances, for specific people, in specific ways. When those conditions align, it's a valuable tool. When they don't, it's a distraction at best and a source of false confidence at worst. The key is knowing which version you're engaging with. Are you planning or fantasizing? Are you rehearsing or daydreaming? Are you preparing your motor system or giving yourself an emotional reward? Are you identifying obstacles and making plans, or are you glossing over difficulties and imagining everything will be easy? The subjective experience might feel similar, but the outcomes diverge sharply. If you're going to visualize, do it with discipline. Focus on process, not outcome. Imagine the steps, not the applause. Make it concrete, specific, actionable. Pair it with if-then plans that turn the imagery into behavior. Use it during preparation, not during execution. Keep it realistic, grounded in your actual capabilities and the actual demands of the task. And most importantly, follow it with action. The visualization is worthless if it doesn't lead to doing the work. Visualization works when it's a tool for thinking, planning, and neural rehearsal. It fails when it becomes a substitute for effort, a way to feel good without making progress, or a distraction that consumes cognitive resources you need for the real task. The line between the two is clear once you understand the mechanisms, but it's also easy to cross without noticing. You think you're preparing, but you're actually indulging. You think you're building confidence, but you're actually building complacency. The research gives you the map. Motor pathways activate during imagery. Planning reduces ambiguity and primes action. Confidence affects performance through expectancy. Implementation intentions automate responses. Fantasies reduce motivation through premature reward. Cognitive load matters. Individual and cultural differences moderate effectiveness. These aren't abstract principles. They're practical guides for when to use visualization and when to do something else. So when visualization works, it's not magic and it's not wishful thinking. It's neuroscience, psychology, and strategic preparation. And when it doesn't work, it's usually because you're using the wrong type at the wrong time for the wrong purpose. Understanding that difference is what turns visualization from a vague self-help cliché into a targeted, evidence-based tool. Use it wisely, and it helps. Use it carelessly, and it's just another way to avoid the work while convincing yourself you're doing something productive. The choice and the outcome are yours.